Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
hmm
This time, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin
Oh, yeah.
and its recent price surge.
Mm.
It's something that's really got everyone talking from,
Everyone.
yeah, like seasoned investors to maybe even, your next door neighbor.
Right.
And what we're going to be using for this deep dive is this really interesting FinShots article
Okay.
that kind of poses the question of, what's driving this rally, and is it actually different this time around?
Yeah.
Yeah, is this something new, or are we going to see,
A flash in the pan.
yeah, just another flash in the pan?
Totally.
And the article really goes into these two, contrasting perspectives
Mm.
from, Bitcoin supporters and Bitcoin skeptics.
Interesting.
So, to kind of give everyone some background, I think it would be helpful to just recap a little bit of, Bitcoin's past.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that crazy roller coaster ride it's been on.
Yes.
So, I mean, back in 2017, Bitcoin was, the hottest thing.
Right, yeah.
It was just,
Everyone was talking about it.
it was insane. And,
From office workers to, insurance agents.
yeah, it was
Everyone.
it was reaching, unbelievable heights.
Absolutely.
And then just as quickly, it came crashing down in 2018, right? It was
prices plummeted.
and a lot of people were just left wondering, was this all just hype? Was it,
It's just a fad.
yeah, was it all just a fad? And so now here we are again in what seems to be like another surge.
Another surge.
And what people are saying is different this time is that you have these big players, these institutional investors
Right.
getting involved. And the FinShots article really kind of digs into this aspect of it.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
For a long time, Bitcoin was really the realm of,
Retail investors.
yeah, retail investors and tech enthusiasts.
Right.
But now you're seeing major financial institutions
Yeah.
kind of dipping their toes into
Into the crypto waters.
into the crypto waters.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
So the article actually cites a Fidelity survey,
Okay.
and they found over 25%
Wow.
of 800 large institutions
Okay.
in the U.S. and Europe already own Bitcoin.
That's huge.
And that's not even all. Fidelity themselves launched their own Bitcoin fund back in 2020.
Wow. I mean,
When you think about it, Fidelity is
a behemoth.
yeah, they're a huge player in the financial world. And for them to kind of make that move,
Yeah.
it really sent a strong signal to the market.
It did.
And then you also have
Yeah.
PayPal
Right.
making this big announcement in 2020 as well,
What was that?
where they were allowing U.S. customers to buy and sell Bitcoin
Okay.
and even use it for purchases.
Sure.
So, when you have a mainstream payment platform like PayPal embracing Bitcoin, it's
Hard to ignore.
yeah, it's kind of hard to ignore it.
You can't just brush it off.
Yeah, you can't just brush it off anymore.
Yeah.
It definitely gives it
That's legitimacy.
yeah, it adds another layer of legitimacy. It's a potential.
It's asset class.
Yeah, it's a potential asset class.
For sure.
But I think we need to
Take a step back.
yeah, take a step back.
And kind of look at the potential pitfalls.
Yeah, are we missing something here?
Yeah.
It's all just
FOMO.
yeah, is it just
Innocent
FOMO?
fear of missing out.
Yeah, are these institutions just getting caught up in the hype?
Right.
Like a lot of individual investors did back in 2017.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. And the article kind of brings up this research paper called Thy Neighbor's Portfolio.
Okay.
Have you heard of this?
I haven't.
It's pretty fascinating.
What is it about?
So basically it found that mutual fund managers
Mm-hmm.
are more likely to buy or sell a stock
Okay.
if other people in their city are doing the same thing.
Really? So
And
that's this pressure to conform.
Yeah, there's this subconscious pressure to conform even in this complex world of finance.
That's crazy. It's really wild. And so it kind of highlights the psychological factors
yeah,
that can influence even the most sophisticated investors.
for sure.
And when you combine that with Bitcoin's inherent volatility
Right.
and the lack of historical data to analyze,
Yeah.
it's kind of understandable why people are a little bit,
Hesitant.
hesitant about this recent rally,
For sure.
you know?
It makes you think.
So how do we reconcile all of this?
Yeah.
This influx of institutional money
Right.
and then this potential for a bubble
Yeah.
driven by FOMO.
Right.
The FinShots article seems to say that dismissing Bitcoin completely is,
No longer viable.
yeah, it's not really a viable option anymore.
Yeah.
So love it or hate it.
It's here to stay
Yeah, it's Bitcoin has established itself as a force.
in the financial world.
Yeah, in the financial world. Absolutely. And so the question now becomes,
What is it actually worth?
Yeah, what is it actually worth? Because how do you value something?
Yeah, that exists purely in the digital realm. There's no physical assets.
There's no traditional financial metrics to back it up.
Yeah.
It's a head scratcher.
I'm hooked. I want to keep talking about this.
Let's do it.
Let's dive deeper into this concept of value and what it actually means in the context of Bitcoin.
Awesome. Yeah, it really is a question that's like sparked so many debates. And, it's fueled this like whole new wave of like financial innovation.
Yeah, so where do we even like begin to unpack this concept of value when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, I think it's important to like remember that, value is often subjective.
Okay.
Like what one person might consider valuable might be completely worthless to someone else.
Right.
But, in the context of like investing, we often talk about intrinsic value, which is kind of like the perceived worth of an asset based on like its underlying characteristics and its like potential for future growth.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how do we apply that to something like Bitcoin?
Right.
Which, operates outside of that like traditional financial system.
That's where things get a little tricky because with traditional assets like stocks or bonds, we can look at things like earnings, dividends, or interest payments to kind of get a sense of their intrinsic value.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin doesn't have those traditional markers.
Right. So what are Bitcoin proponents looking at then when they talk about its value?
So they point to a couple of factors.
Okay.
One is scarcity.
Okay.
So Bitcoin is designed to have a limited supply.
Okay.
Only 21 million Bitcoins will ever exist.
Wow.
And this built-in scarcity, they argue, creates value in the same way that like a limited edition artwork or a rare collectible does.
Interesting. So it's like digital gold? Is that kind of the idea?
That's one way to think about it.
Okay.
Proponents also argue that Bitcoin's value lies in its potential as like a store of value. So they believe it can act as a hedge against inflation and like economic uncertainty, similar to how people view gold.
But gold has been around for like centuries.
Right.
And it has intrinsic value.
Yeah.
Because it's used in jewelry and electronics.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is purely digital.
Right. And that's a common criticism.
Okay.
Skeptics argue that Bitcoin's value is purely speculative. It's driven by hype.
Okay.
And the belief that someone else will be willing to pay more for it in the future.
So it's all a bit of a gamble then?
I mean, there's definitely an element of risk involved, just like with any investment.
Right.
But even if you're not like totally convinced by that digital gold argument or the store of value argument, there's another aspect of Bitcoin that's worth considering.
Okay, what's that?
Its potential to disrupt the existing financial system.
Okay, now we're getting into like the revolutionary stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin is built on this idea of decentralization, taking power away from like central authorities, like governments and banks, and putting it back in the hands of individuals. And this, in theory, could lead to more transparent, efficient, and accessible financial services for everyone.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So even if Bitcoin itself doesn't become like
the dominant currency.
Yeah, like the main currency of the future.
Right.
The underlying technology blockchain could revolutionize how we think about and interact with money.
Precisely.
Okay.
And that's what makes this whole conversation about Bitcoin's value so fascinating. It goes beyond simply looking at like price fluctuations and forces us to grapple with these like bigger questions about the future of finance and the role of technology in our lives.
This is getting me really excited.
Yeah.
I can see why people get so passionate about this.
Yeah. It's not just about making a quick buck.
Right.
It's about being part of a potential paradigm shift.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember, though, that these are still early days.
Right.
The technology is evolving rapidly.
Right.
The regulatory landscape is uncertain.
Right.
And there are plenty of challenges that Bitcoin needs to overcome before it can truly achieve its potential.
So knowing all of this, how do we navigate this world of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And make informed decisions, whether we're considering investing or just trying to understand its impact on the world?
Education is key.
Okay.
Take the time to learn about the underlying technology, the different perspectives on its value, and the potential risks and rewards involved.
Okay, so let's talk about those risks.
Yeah.
The FinShots article highlighted the volatility of Bitcoin. We've seen how quickly its price can swing.
Oh, yeah. In both directions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Volatility is inherent in any emerging market.
Okay.
And Bitcoin is no exception.
Mm.
It's important to remember that investing in Bitcoin, or any cryptocurrency for that matter,
Right.
carries a higher level of risk than traditional investments.
So what's your advice for anyone considering dipping their toes into these crypto waters?
First and foremost,
Okay.
only invest what you can afford to lose.
So?
Don't let the fear of missing out cloud your judgment.
Right.
Secondly, diversify your portfolio.
Okay.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket,
Yeah.
especially a basket as volatile as Bitcoin.
Right.
And lastly, stay informed.
Okay.
Keep up with the latest developments in the space.
Uh-huh.
Be aware of the regulatory changes. And just be prepared for a bumpy ride.
That's sound advice.
Yeah.
It seems like approaching Bitcoin with like a healthy dose of curiosity
Yeah.
and caution is the best way to go.
Absolutely.
We've explored the history,
Yeah.
the hype, and the various arguments for and against Bitcoin's value.
Right.
But I think there's still one piece of the puzzle
Okay.
we need to examine.
What's that?
The psychological factors at play.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about herd mentality earlier, but there's a whole other layer of human behavior
Right.
that can influence our decisions
Yeah.
when it comes to investing,
Absolutely.
especially in something as like novel and volatile as Bitcoin.
For sure.
I'm intrigued. Let's peel back that layer and see what's going on in our brains
Okay.
when we're faced with the allure of Bitcoin.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it's wild to think that like our psychology can have such a big impact,
Yep.
It
really is.
on how we view something like Bitcoin.
Absolutely. And when you think about the emotional roller coaster that comes with investing in something as volatile as Bitcoin,
Oh, yeah.
it's no wonder that our brains just kind of go into overdrive,
Yeah.
We're programmed to seek out rewards and avoid losses, right?
Right.
And those instincts can get amplified in situations where there's a lot of uncertainty and potential for both big gains and big losses.
So you're saying like our emotions can sometimes cloud our judgment
Oh, well, sure.
when it comes to Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge factor. Think about the fear of missing out, that FOMO we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful emotion that can really drive people to make impulsive decisions.
Right. Especially when they see like others around them seemingly making a killing.
Exactly. It's like that social proof is so strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, you have like the fear of losing money,
Oh, yeah.
which can be just as paralyzing.
Absolutely. Loss aversion is a real thing. It's a well-documented psychological bias. Studies have shown that the pain of losing money is often way greater than the pleasure of gaining the same amount.
Wow.
So when Bitcoin's price is plummeting, it can trigger this panic response, and people end up selling at a loss, even if it might not make sense from a long-term investment perspective.
So how do we fight against these emotional biases then?
Right.
And make better, more rational decisions when it comes to Bitcoin or, frankly, any investment?
Yeah. I think one key is to have a clear investment strategy and really stick to it. Determine your risk tolerance. Set realistic goals and just don't let your emotions dictate your actions.
Right.
It's also super helpful to do your research,
Yeah.
and understand the fundamentals of the asset you're investing in.
Right.
That knowledge can help you make more informed decisions
Okay.
and, not get swept up in all the hype.
It's all about that balance then.
Yeah, finding that balance between emotional intelligence
Right.
and informed decision-making.
That's really helpful advice.
I hope so.
But let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
We've talked about all this technical stuff about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Its potential value, the risks, the psychology of it all.
Right.
But what does this actually mean for the average person who
Yeah.
might not be a tech whiz or a financial expert?
I think it shows how important it is to stay informed
Yeah.
and be adaptable in a world that's changing so quickly. Bitcoin and blockchain technology, whether they end up being successful or not. Yeah.
Have started this really important conversation
Yeah.
about the future of finance.
Right.
The whole idea of decentralization
Mm-hmm.
and the potential for technology to change traditional systems.
So it's bigger than Bitcoin.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the financial landscape is evolving.
Yeah.
And we all need to kind of be prepared for the changes coming our way.
This deep dive has definitely been eye-opening.
I'm Gab.
I started out just curious about the price surge,
Right.
but now I'm seeing all these possibilities and challenges.
That's what's so cool about exploring, right?
Yeah.
It takes us down these unexpected paths.
Hmm.
and makes us think differently.
Well, we've reached the end of our journey into the world of Bitcoin.
It's been quite a ride.
It has. But I think this is just the beginning, right?
Oh, absolutely. The conversation about Bitcoin, blockchain, the future of finance, it's far from over.
There are going to be so many twists and turns.
For sure.
As with any new technology.
Exactly.
So keep exploring.
Do your own research.
Keep learning.
Ask questions.
Have those conversations.
About how these technologies could impact our lives.
It's an exciting time.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep those minds curious and stay tuned for more deep dives.
See you then.
Into the world of ideas and innovations that are shaping our future.